everybody, and welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox. Today, we are featuring our new episode of Vintage Charm at 60 Plus. Remember, we have a date every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Uh, the show airs on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And if you don't catch us on Thursdays at 2 p.m., you can always go back and view the uh, the broadcast on, again, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you need to drop me a note, just go to my page is the Cynthia Lennox Show. That's my website, the CynthiaLennoxShow.com, and scroll to the bottom. It's still under construction because you're going to be adding some things to it. But scroll to the bottom, and there's a box where you can write a message and shoot me a note, and I will take a look at it. And if it's something that we can share on the show, I will definitely do that. Now, if you would like to chat with me personally, you can also shoot me a note, an email, and I will get in touch with you. Any consultation that you may need, I do offer a 15-minute consultation before any sort of coaching assignments, coaching contracts, or anything of that. You may all know by now, I'm also a life coach, and that's one of the things I like to do best, simply because it helps people transform their lives from where they are and where they want to go. I have went through a transformation in my life, and it has been pure bliss. Not that everything has been perfect, because who wants a perfect life? A perfect life is a boring life. But we do want to be able to be in a position where we can handle the challenges of life, and at the same time, create a mindset that keeps us in a positive frame, uh, optimistic about our lives, and just keep us in a positive mindset, so that as we continue in on that path, we will attract the things that we desire. Because as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. As a woman thinks in her heart, so is she. I want to talk about today about something. Actually, it's a little personal. When you share with people, one of the main things that you want to do is share your story, because when you share your story, what happens is that it becomes relatable to the people that your audience, or at least some. Your story is not for everybody, and that is fine as well. But I I, I had a moment of self-reflection. I had to really go back and think about my life, because I realized that when I share my life, it's really talking about I really talk about the good stuff. I talk about the positive and the great experiences I've had in life, and so I have told myself, or got to thinking, I don't have a story. I don't have a story because, my childhood, I had a great childhood. I had a dad that was very protective and great provider, and always really desired to give us the best of everything in life, from education, from our social circle, just about everything. He just really wanted the best for us. So I got to talk with some different people. I got talking with my friend, my close friend, and I also spoke with my sister, because I wanted to really unpack. The more I share, the more authentic I want to be, because it's just who I am. So I said to my sister, I don't have a story. I said, but if I go back and unpack some of the things that we experienced growing up, there were some dark moments that I that I now recall, but I really have not included it in my story. And she said to me something like, because my dad, even though he was a great father, he was a good dad, a good provider. He's not one of those dad that was very affectionate or loving. As a matter of fact, my dad has never told me that he loved me, but he showed us with his actions. And that was a bigger demonstration to me of his love. He showed us with the things he did and so forth. So I never really had a issue or problem or to think that I was not loved by my parents. Well, I knew my mom because my mom was a little different dynamics, but my dad really, he was just about working, about providing, and about just providing. He was a great provider. But my dad was not a great husband. And there's some things that I recall. There's some moments of fear that I recall because he was just, my dad. And I share this so that it puts some framework to my story. My dad became an orphan at 7. His mom and dad died, and he was just really shift around uh, among his relatives. And as a teenager, he left his country, Costa Rica, and he came to Panama, and that's where he met my mom and got married. And he really was a what we call a self-made man. He started a business, and then he started working for the Panama Canal, and he just really was very resourceful in his experience. But he never really had uh, a coach. He never really had a frame of reference as how to be a good husband. So he was just who he was, and the best of him was never always shown, simply because he that's what he knew. So anyway, he wasn't the best husband. So when I shared that with my sister, and I said, I remember those moments where we were afraid because he would argue, and with my mom, and for no reason, and so forth. And then my sister said to me, but that is not your story, that is mom's story. And then I thought, well, but I was there. I experienced that. What the emotions it caused me, were affected my life. And she said, what it taught us was what not to accept as we grew, older, and what not to accept in a partner, what not to accept in our husband, what not to accept, the things that we should, the standards that we should set up, the boundaries, the standards, and so forth. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. um she's right. That resonates with me, because the way he was with my mom really becomes my mother's story. And that, no one can take that away from me. That is my assessment. She pointed it out, and it does make sense. And that's the reason one of the reasons that I always thought I don't have a story, because that wasn't my experience. In previous broadcast episodes, I shared about my experience when my dad sent us away to boarding school. And that was because that's one of the things you do when you are in a position to do that, and how I was expelled 3 times from boarding school. That is my story. That is my story. And, I share that as part of me. So anyway, I got that out of the way as far as my upbringing, and why I stick to the positive, because I have had some great positive experiences that motivate me to be who I am today, and really assisted in framing my, or aiding, I should say, my well-being in my mind, in my emotions, in my psychic, all of that. I'm good with that. Good with my kid, with my sisters growing up when I was a kid, and fine with my parents. My mom was so relatable. We could talk, and we just had a great experience as mom and daughter, and that was until her last days and so forth. Then I had this conversation with my girlfriend. I said, I share the same thing. What is my story? What is it? What is my story? And you know what I'm measuring it against? I'm measuring it against people, or measuring it to people that have had stories of trauma or tragic or very sad or lack, and I am measuring it to those kinds of experiences which I don't have. So when I shared it with my girlfriend, I said, you know what? And this is somebody that knows me well and actually knew me before I met my husband. And I said, I don't know what my story is, because and the thing about it is, because my mind, ever since I read that book, The Science of the Mind by Ernest Holmes, that book became such a transformative experience, because what it taught me was how to really govern my thoughts, and how to really frame my thinking so that I would attract the things to my life that I desire. So, and it really has worked. And it's not that I'm blocking out things that has happened, but as I shared with you, my conversation with my sister, she said that is not your story. Those bad experiences and so forth, that was not, of course, when I was small, my dad, he did not spare the rod. He, in my country, there's no such thing like calling child protective service. None of that. That does not even, I don't even know that we have that. So he could really, but that's life. That's just discipline. That's just my dad disciplining us, and that's what he did. He did not spare the rod. He and sometimes when I would know that he would be coming at me with, or schedule me for a whipping or whatever, I would run to the other side of the uh of the building, to my godparents' house, and and they would spare me. They would, I would get away from it. As a matter of fact, I think my older sister used to be angry about that, because she had no place to run. But I would go to my godmother's home, and my dad would not even think of going there, or trying to beat me or anything like that, trying to get me a whipping or anything like that. So anyway, that was my experience. And it's just, again, beating a kid, at least back then, that was just a matter of discipline. And so, I just get over that. It wasn't anything traumatic that caused me trauma or anything of that nature. So again, it's my story, but it's not like the real, gory stuff. So talking to my friend, I'm saying, I don't have all the experience. And you know what she said to me? She says, yes, you do. You have a story. And I'm like, well, what it is? She says, well, you remember when you lost your job, and you didn't have a car, you had to give up your your apartment, you didn't have, you were destitute, per se. Not per se. You were destitute. Well, so, but I said to her, I said, yes, but I had friends. Imagine that. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a car. I did not have a car, but I had a friend that had, I had two friends that were very close to me, and they had cars. And the first part of that journey, um, she would loan me her car. I would take her to work, and I would have the car all day. And then I'll pick her up from work. That went on for a few months. And then my other friend with a Volvo, she would give me the keys. I would take her to work, and I would then pick her up. I don't know how my mind works, but in my mind, even though I did not have my own personal means of transportation, I did not take it as lack. I did not see it as lacking. In my mind, the way I processed it, it was just a temporary situation, a temporary thing that I was going through. As a matter of fact, I would pick up my friend from work, and we would go to Brahms ice cream and sit there and have, a Sunday ice cream Sunday, and really have a great time. And then she would drop me home, and the next day it was just the same. We decided we wanted to go on a little picnic. We went up to, I think it was Turner Falls or someplace there in Oklahoma, and we packed up the car, and so I was not lacking in the things that I needed. And then I had to give up my apartment. That was really interesting because I had to give it up. I had to give up my apartment, and I had these friends with this huge house that you know said I could rent a room from them. The house was like they were on this side, the north side of the house. I was on the south side. So, I had total privacy. It was great. A nice, big, beautiful house. And so those experiences, even though they were real, and if you really looked at them from a lack or or not having, going through a moment of scarcity, I didn't see it that way. I didn't see it as lacking or not having or being deprived because, of course, while I was using my friends' cars, I was, looking for a job because, you have to work. So I was looking for a job, but I always in my mind, remember I shared before that I always believed that I deserve a great life. I believe that. That is just, you can't take that away from me. I believe that. I know that. As a matter of fact, I get rid of that word believe because, when you know something, it's hard to explain, but that is because what you know belongs to you. You can't know something and try to explain it because it's not for anyone else. And that's why people that believe stuff, it doesn't work for them because that's somebody else's knowing that you have taken upon yourself to believe. And it makes you wonder or question or doubt. Why? Because you don't know. And with that, I encourage people to really go within yourself to learn your divine strength, your divine power to know, to create, how to frame your thinking, how to attract the things that you desire. So, anyway, going back to my story, my friend quickly reminded me, she said, "You have a story. That is your story." And I just cannot, I just, yeah, yes, it is a story and it is my story. But the reason I didn't see it as a story is because my life went on as usual. I had great relationships, and at the time I was involved in teaching and so forth, teaching at a religious organization at that time, and I had great relationships, great friends, just a lot of opportunities coming my way. I just needed a job. I needed work, and then I found this great job and was able to get back on my feet. And this man, a friend of mine, and you know, car salesperson, introduced me to a nice antique Benz, and I got this Benz, and it was just a great car and so forth. So I was back in some fine wheels and just happy. But that is my story. So when I say or when I talk about living on the bright side of life or having a happy mindset, it is my reality, and that's just because of the way I have chosen to look at things, to see things, to acknowledge things, to recognize things. I don't see when I am faced with a challenge, it's my first thought is resolution. How do we resolve this situation? How do we resolve this? And that's the mode that I step right into to resolve those issues in my life. So, there is no need for me to really compare myself to other people's stories to to measure up because my story is my story, and I that's what my life is all about. And so the fact that I stay motivated, highly motivated actually, highly motivated, positive, and optimistic, it's because of the way I have trained my mind. And now, in this season of my life, now in this season of your life, those of you that are vintage charm at 60 plus, sometimes, we can bring situations into our present season. People with post traumatic uh, disorder, you can bring all those traumas and, always in need of healing, or we can really do a 360 change. Some people, of course, have situations they need to deal with, and that we must respect. And you would know if that's you. But some things, for your sake, for your own well-being, it behooves us to make that change, to pivot, to switch, to just turn it around so that we can start living this second half of our lives uh, meaningfully, and add fulfillment so that we can really enjoy this part of our lives and not really, keep dragging those experiences with us. There's so many things I shared at this stage of our lives in this season. The freedom we have, the liberty we have to make choices, decide on things, and some of us are unconventional. I don't necessarily follow traditions, because a lot of things that I grew up with, or the teachings that I've had, they don't apply to my life today at all. So you live a life free of guilt, free of blame, free of shame, no condemnation, no judgment, particularly because that's what happens. We reach this season, and then we may have a tendency to judge those that are of a different generation. And there's no need for that, because things have changed. That's why we must remain relevant. We must remain, up to date. We need to update our thinking, our programming, to think differently. Things are different. The dating game is totally different today. Before, you could, you wait for a guy to ask you out. Today it's different. You have to be bold enough, and if you are in a situation where you see someone, you have to be bold enough to go and ask the person's name and introduce yourself. There is nothing wrong with that. Again, no judgment. Don't judge yourself, and don't judge others. That's the way it is. Of course, I'm not in that situation today, but the things that I have read and experiences that I've seen in other people, you don't have to wait. Who says you have to wait? And somebody said, the guy that finds a woman finds a good thing. That's true. Of course, you are a good thing. If you are a female, you know your worth, your value, and so forth. But who is to say that you cannot make the first move? Who is to say that? What is wrong with that? Asking somebody their name, I saw you sitting over there, you're by yourself, what is your name, and so forth. And then you just make a quick assessment. Is this guy, unless you could do it before, is this guy, man, whatever, are they single, and blah, blah. And then you just go into your whatever it is that you do, and you just really be free and confident and relaxed and bold to just go after what you want. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, it's interesting because, yes, my husband, when we met, he saw me and he was like, my. And he was, you know, all this time I didn't know that he was at this banquet to meet me. But when, and then, we dated a couple times, dinner, a few times with friends, and we went out to dinner once and so forth. But for New Year's Eve, he said he wanted to take me out. He wanted to spend New Year's Eve with me. And at the time, I had my own place. And I said, well, if you want to spend it with me, it will be doing what I want to do. And he said, okay. And so I wanted to go to a family friend of mine, not family, but this is a family that I acquired. And it's a huge family, and they live like about an hour away, not too far. here because we have nice highways and so forth, so you get there quick. So anyway, I said I want to go there and spend, and they had not met him. And so we went to this home with all, the family members and the kids, and they were just really having a good time. And when they met my husband, they're like, everybody loved him immediately. He's just that kind of man. So, after I saw that, whatever, not that I needed the approval, but it was really good to have that type of affirmation from people that I respect and admire and love and so forth. When I decided that I was going to love my husband, I, and I'm not sure if I shared this before, but if I didn't, here we go. So he invited me to dinner, and I had this. I got this construction paper, and I cut it in form of a heart. And I said to him, now remember, we had gone out, and it's not like he asked me that he wanted to go with me, but that, just kind of by default, because when he called me once he the following day after we us being out overnight at this family's house, he called me and he said, "Hi, sweetheart." And I was a little taken because it's like, where does that come from? Like, I'm not your sweetheart. But anyway, I was a little stuck up, but not I wasn't playing hard to get, but I was a little like, let's just take this in, one step at a time. So he invited me to dinner like a week later. And I bought this red construction paper, and I created a heart. And I wrote on the paper, as a matter of fact, he still has it. He kept it. And I wrote, "My heart wants to love you. Should I let it?" Imagine that. Remember, he had not even asked me that he wants to go out with me, but I just knew, sometimes, the nonverbals speak louder than, you know, what someone could say. And he had not said, I want to date you, whatever. He had not said any of that. So I said, on the page, "My heart wants to love you. Should I let it?" And so I gave it to him. We were seated at the table, and I gave it to him, and he looks at it and he reads it, and his eyes got a little teary, and he said, "Yes, yes." That's all. He just said yes. My point is, when I was ready, I took the initiative. And I didn't feel embarrassed. I didn't feel ashamed. I just let him know. And this was even way before, we've been married 32 wonderful years. So this is like way before this season, that we talk a lot about authenticity. I always really was real about things, about my life and so forth. And I thought, well, he needs to know, because if he's engaged, if he is engaged in another relationship or seeing someone else or whatever, you need to know that you're stepping into a situation where there's a commitment that is about to happen here, and you need to either come straight or, let me know, like, right now I'm not ready and so forth, and then I would know what I need to do. And that would have been easy at that juncture. Obviously, I was hoping that he was available, which he was, because the person that brought us together knew him, knew his character, his integrity, and so forth, knew he was a good man. And of course, she knew me. So, I got lucky and he got lucky. So he said yes. My point is, I took that initiative. I didn't wait for things to happen by osmosis, or put the pressure on him to have to tell me, "I want to date you," and blah blah. I didn't wait for that. I told him exactly how I felt, and if it was safe. If it was safe for me to allow my heart, which is a treasure. Should I allow my heart to love you? And it's really interesting. He said yes, and that yes stands till this day. I love my husband, and he loves me as well. We have a great relationship, which we both treasure. So, in this season, my friend, things are different. Things have changed. We are bolder, we are authentic, we are real, we are genuine, we are uncompromising, and we are unapologetic. We show up with our voices, and we show up with a sense of purpose and confidence. And we know that we are a blessing to others. We know that we are helpful to others. We know who we are. We know who we are. And again, we live our lives in seasons. So if you are in this season as a vintage charm at 60 plus, you know who you are. And if you don't, this is a good opportunity. This is a good time for you to really invest time in self reflection and personal growth development to get to know who you are. And I go back to that whole understanding of knowing. Many people that I talk with, they live their lives believing. They believe this, they believe that. Their whole life is based on belief. And what I try to share with you, when you believe something, that's someone else's truth. That is not your truth. I discovered that for myself because the way I conduct my life today, the way I attract things, situations, opportunities, circumstances, the way I attract that, I know that it's based on the knowledge that I have about me. Now, if you share something, if it resonates with me, then I know that that's my truth. But if I'm going to say, I believe this and I believe that, that's not my truth. That is somebody else's truth that they have imposed on you. And you are carrying that. And that's why many people, they roll the dice and they wait for such a long time for things to happen. And things don't happen. Why? Because it's not your truth. Your truth comes from within. That's why when I make a decision about something, you can forge ahead with the confidence and the assertiveness that it's something in your favor or that's something that's going to result for you. And even if it doesn't, even if I missed the mark, even if it's something that, wow, I really thought that, you resolve it. It's that simple. You don't create drama. You don't create uh take it into a painful discomfort. No, you resolve it and you move on. I'm telling you, this is the best season of our lives. It's the best season to have fun, to go out, to do the things, your hobby. If you want to start a new job, it's this is your season. So I want to encourage you to do a little self reflection and think of your own story. See how your life has unfolded. What are you today as a result of your upbringing? And try to really focus on the positive experiences that you've had. And if there are some things that are negative that needs to be dealt with, that needs further attention, then you can address that. But for the most part, we've all had great experiences in our lives. Focus on that. Who's to say whether it's good or bad, right or wrong? There's no such thing. It is your story. And this is your season. I want to really encourage you to focus on that. It is your season. And whether you are at a point of refiring, retiring, you know, retiring as traditionally is expected at, this season, you turn it into refiring. And even if you have to be at work, still work because you need the income, you work, but you refire your thinking and start really being creative, innovative, and adventurous. I mean, even if you make going to, I don't know, to an amusement main event center, make it exciting. It's all in your mind. It's a mindset. Make it exciting and start thinking differently. Going out to to have a glass of wine or whatever. I mean, a Coke. coffee, whatever, with a friend, and you seek to be the encouragement to someone else. And you'll see how it encourages you. When I take time to come on here and share with you, it's an encouragement to me. And it also serves as a reminder of what my life is all about. I am so grateful and appreciative of my life. And yeah, I am unapologetic. Unapologetic. I don't consider critics or people that may not agree with me, or I don't get into all of that. Jealousy, envy, no, no, I don't. That is not even part of my sphere. It's not. Why? I stick with the people that understand their lives. They don't have to understand me, because my growth and my revolution, did I say revolution? My evolution is my journey. But when you understand the journey, your own journey, then you will know why I am the way I am. Not know, you won't know, you will respect. You won't know because you can't know what's mine. You know what's yours. You will respect my journey. And that's what I do. When I see people doing stuff that, I usually put myself in a position to learn. And, I learn from other people's boldness, their bodacious lifestyle. And, I learn from it, and it encourages me. It empowers me as well. So you can be that light for someone else. As a matter of fact, think of yourself that way. When you go into self-reflection and you start changing the way you are, thinking differently and discovering the greatness, the magnificent, the magic that you are. The magic that you are. Once you start discovering that and you start getting your own swag, I'll tell you, then you will know that you can carry that and help another person to be the best that they can be during this season of vintage charm at 60 plus. Chévere, right? Chévere, that's just a Spanish term. But anyway, that to me is exciting. I encourage you to change your thinking, change your mindset. Think of your own story so that you can share it effectively with someone else. And it's like my sister said to me, and my friend, everyone has a story. And you should not compare your story with someone else. And the way you choose to frame your experience in life, like I frame mine on a positive and optimistic beam, you know, that becomes my story. And it's what makes me who I am today. No suffering, enough pain, no more taking comfort in pain and suffering. That is not necessary, unless, of course, it is your choice. And with that, I want to say, have yourself a fantastic weekend. Do something fantastic. Do something out of the ordinary, something new. When I coach my clients, I always give them assignment to come back and tell me something different that you have done to deal with this situation, whatever situation they're dealing with, or to meet the goal that they desire, whatever it is they desire to accomplish. What have you done to change that? And so forth. So I am saying to you this weekend, let it be the start of your journey, or, just kick it up a notch and do something out of this world. If you are close to whatever it is, just whatever you like to do, have some friends over and cook for them, you know, whatever it is that you like to do, take your partner and surprise your partner and go someplace different. And even if it's to the park, or even if you say, well, let's go jogging, whatever it is, just do it. Just do it. Again, if you want to drop me a note, go to my website, thecynthialinoxshow.com, scroll all the way to the bottom and drop me an email. Tell me what's on your mind. If you want a 15-minute consultation, I will be glad to do that. Again, I'm a life coach, and before any kind of commitment, there is always a 15-minute consult so that you can know if we are the right match, the right energy. Because once you work with me, one of the requirements is that it's non-negotiable. It's for results. So that means you have to be serious, because when I come to you, I'm going to be serious and I will hold you accountable. Because if you come to me, it's because you want to see changes in your life. So I take that seriously. I take that very seriously. So you will know if we're a right match, because once I give you assignments and so forth, you will be held accountable. And if you don't, if you're not interested in that, then we are not a match. So again, the CynthiaLinoxShow.com. Shoot me an email and we can chat further. Remember, every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm here. You can catch me on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and view the show and enjoy it. It's been my pleasure. Au revoir, tata, hasta luego. Bye. I will next week, same time, same place. Appreciate you. Ciao.